Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Joni Ogg, and on behalf of Travel Professional News, homebasedtravelagent.com, and findahosttravelagency.com, I want to welcome all of you to today's webinar, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your days to be with us. So I am personally so excited about today's topic, and I'm sure all of you are too because you've logged in. Today, we're going to welcome Ponant Cruises, and with us today is Sue Flood, who is an award-winning photographer, filmmaker, and public speaker. Her work takes her all over the world, but she has a passion for the wildlife and the icy beauty of the polar regions, and is one of the very few women who chose to return again and again. She keeps going to the Earth's harshest and most demanding environments. I really admire her. She is a zoology graduate. She spent 11 years with the BBC Natural History Unit, working on series including The Blue Planet and Planet Earth, as well as the Disney nature movie Earth with Sir David Attenborough, before turning her focus to photography. Now, her images have appeared in National Geographic, BBC Wildlife, Geo, and other distinguished publications. And her most recent book is Emperor, the Perfect Penguin, with a foreword by Sir Michael Palin. Sue's work has won multiple awards, obviously, as we can see here, and in recognition of her photographic achievements, she was invited to meet Her Majesty the Queen at Buckingham Palace, which must be very special now, especially. In May of 2022, Sue received an honorary Master of Science degree from the University of Chester. Her adventures in the Arctic and Antarctic include diving with narwhals and leopard seals, living with Inuit hunters in the floe edge, and camping for several weeks in Antarctica's most southerly empire penguin colony. I just can't wait. This is going to be so awesome. So we welcome also today Lindsay White, and Lindsay is the director of Le Commandant Charcot. I'm saying that wrong. My French is not so great today, for the Americas, who will be here to help host this event, and she's here to answer questions as well. Now, today's webinar topic is Through the Lens of the North Pole. And today, Ponant is sharing a great incentive for attendees to earn a $500 e-gift card per couple, or $250 per person, when booking on the Le Commandant Charcot. Please remember that you are all muted. I know most of you have been with us before, so you know that, but we do welcome your questions, and you can type those in the questions area on your screen at any time. When the presentation is all over, we will take as many of those as we have time for. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Lindsay and Sue so they can get started. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Joni. So I am Lindsay White, as Joni said, the director of Le Commandant Charcot for the Americas market. I'm not going to give you a biography about me because you really want to hear from Sue. She is the important person here, but I can tell you that Le Commandant Charcot is the world's only luxury icebreaker. She is also the only passenger ship right now going to the North Pole. So we're really excited to have this webinar, and this is really something special. We don't normally have a photo ambassador that is able to tell the story of their trip with us aboard Le Commandant Charcot to incredible areas like the North Pole. And there's no better person to do this than Sue, because she has been to the North Pole 9 times. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about Ponant. So the company began in 1988 by a couple of French merchant marine officers who wanted to share their love of navigation and exploration with the world. You'll see here on the top left, this is Le Ponant, our flagship. She was just refurbished, and she holds a maximum of 32 guests. She's on her way to the Kimberley right now. And then at the bottom right, we have Le Commandant Charcot, the ship that we're really going to talk about. She is the last and latest in our fleet of 12 luxury expedition vessels. but we go to over 400 departures throughout the year to all 7 continents. So we don't just do polar, we really go everywhere. At the same time, we were just nominated, or actually not just nominated, but awarded #1 for Best Small Ship and Best Expedition Ship for Condé Nast. We're really proud of that and really appreciate the honor. We've just been nominated by Travel Weekly as well for a ship that is best for less than 500 berths. So please keep us in mind. I love this photo because this environment is where a lot of the other polar ships have to turn around because the ice is simply too thick. And this is where Le Commandant Charcot's journey is beginning. At the same time, we know that you don't need to sacrifice comfort and luxury to get to some of these incredible areas. And this image is a great example. This is our Blue Lagoon. It is a heated pool. It's 3 feet of water, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And what's special is that it is heated as well as these permanent seats that you see on the left from the ship's engine. So Le Commandant Charcot is the cleanest ship out there. And what a view. It's a really great experience, ways to see remote landscapes in comfort and in luxury. We try to include as much as possible, from port fees, gratuities, Wi-Fi when available, activities. We even provide a parka for you and boots to borrow when you're exploring the areas. I get asked a lot what to expect for a general day at sea. We have a lot of different options. In fact, when I've been on board, I couldn't do everything that I wanted to do because there were a lot of options going on at the same time throughout the day. There are things from citizen science with our naturalists, from hearing from our scientists and seeing them in the labs, daily fitness classes, viewing wildlife, like the polar bears you see here from our ship, wine and whiskey tastings on board. And we also have photo shops. And I wanted, Sue, if you have a couple of minutes to just explain what a photo workshop is with our photo ambassadors on board.
Sure, thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, this was one of the things that really excited me about being a Ponant photo ambassador, because, of course, many other ships may offer photography classes, but only Ponant has this fantastic availability of the photo ambassadors. So we will be giving lectures on board, but we also do these one-to-one sessions. So we're available all day, every day for the guests, helping them with their cameras. They may have a camera query. They can come and find us. We'll sit and practice, whether it's a question about their camera or a technique, photographing flying birds or polar bears, whatever it is. And just having that ability to sit down, have a one-to-one with the guest and talk about photography, practice. It's a really wonderful opportunity to have that in-depth experience to help you get the most out of your camera, whether you're using an iPhone or whether you're a more experienced photographer with a digital SLR, but catering, we hope, to everybody.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sue.
Thank you.
Sure. So wanted to go through, because Sue is really going to talk about a lot of the off-ship experiences. So I wanted to cover some pictures of what your clients can see on our ship. We have our reception area on the top left, and you'll see the elevator bank on the left of that photo. What I love is that we have one elevator in the middle of the ship. So you don't have to worry about your clients having an elevator near their stateroom. All of the staterooms and suites on our ship are completely quiet. We also have our theater to the top right, and it will hold all of your clients in one seating. We have an average of 200 people aboard this ship. We also have on the bottom left one of our 2 restaurants. This is our fine dining. And you'll see in the back some glass windows. This is a second bridge. So when the ship is reversing, this is where the captain and his crew will be. It's a really special experience to be enjoying a meal and seeing the captain and crew at work. And then on the bottom right, we have one of our 2 lounges. This is our panoramic lounge. It's in a U shape. It has these floor to ceiling windows on all sides. In fact, the windows actually go above the ceiling as well. So it really has stunning views and brings the outside in. We have a robust wellness section too. So you'll see in the top left, our indoor saltwater pool. It has the skylights above and the option to turn on a counter current so that you can swim laps in the pool. On the bottom left, you'll see a bar. And this isn't any bar, this is our detox bar, where we'll have fresh squeezed juices, smoothies, and teas, all included in the trip price, of course. And then below, we have our snow room and sauna. That's right, we have a snow room on board. This is a really good way to do the hot and cold therapy that is becoming popular in Europe and parts of the US as well. It's great for hypertension and a lot of other benefits. On the top right, we have our gym. This is where you'll have daily group classes. And then the lady sitting here, she's waiting for a massage while enjoying a drink and a great view. This is our duplex suite. So we have 4 2-story suites. They each have their own hot tub and a shower and a bath. And what I heard from a guest that was staying in one of our duplex was that she loved waking up, and this is where the bedroom is right here. So she would sit up in bed and have this spectacular view of the back of this ship and be able to smell bacon when the butler was coming in with their breakfast in the morning. She said that she had never started the day off better than that. We have our owner's suite, and it has a steam fireplace that you can see here. And then the living room and bedroom both open up to this spectacular terrace. So this terrace is 2,000 square feet. It's got its own wildlife viewing telescope. It is Swarovski, and then also a hot tub and plenty of outdoor seating. And then last, I wanted to touch on gastronomy. So we are a French ship, and of course, food is extremely important. We are the only Alain Ducasse restaurant at sea. For those of you that aren't familiar with Alain Ducasse, he is the most awarded chef that exists today. He has 21 Michelin stars. Here are some examples of his dishes, and then of course we include some amazing wines and champagne with dinner as well, including Veuve Clicquot. So I am going to hand over the presentation to Sue to talk about her experience. Sue, I think that you might be able to move the presentation forward.
Let's here. I hope so. Okay. Just having a I am just trying to do that now, Lindsay, but I don't seem to have control of it looking at the panel.
Okay.
Hang on. Okay, let's see. Oh.
There we go. I see it.
Okay, terrific. There we go. Okay, thank you. Sorry for that little hiccup there. So yes, thank you again for that lovely introduction, Joni. And as you mentioned, I've spent a lot of time in the Arctic and the Antarctic over the last 25 years as a wildlife filmmaker and photographer on various BBC adventures, and including diving with beluga whales here in the Arctic. However, I absolutely love working on the Charcot along with my colleagues Ian Dawson and Cindy Miller-Hopkins. So we're delighted to be photo ambassadors on this absolutely incredible ship. We were extremely fortunate to be on the inaugural voyage in September 2021, going to the North Pole. And our first night out of Ellesund, we were very lucky to see the Northern Lights. It's very exciting to be on this incredible ship. As I say, I've worked in the Arctic for 25 years and have worked on all sorts of different icebreakers, but this ship is something else. I mean, it's the second most powerful hull. It's a PC2 hull, and not only can you go in incredible luxury and comfort, but also safety to the pole. Some of the amazations, like the ice sonar, this device here detecting the thickness of the ice, and that information is fed back to the bridge, this very sophisticated ice navigation software, and along with the information that you get from sending out the helicopter and finding a way through the ice, the ship is able to make the best possible use of all that information to track its way to the pole. Also equipment like the Sherp here, this incredible amphibious vehicle that we have on board with other safety equipment, so that this is able to go into the ice, onto the ice, into the water, and so on. Really impressive safety equipment. Other innovations that I love, the Commandant Charcot has a heated deck, heated by recycled energy from the engine rooms, and every cabin has a balcony, and the captain and expedition team, the captain will wake you up at all hours of the day and night. So I was once woken at 2 a.m. with an announcement, ladies and gentlemen, there's a polar bear mother and cub outside. And I was so excited to get out that I leapt up in my night dress and stepped onto my balcony, actually in bare feet at 2 a.m. And as I say, it was slightly heated, grabbed my camera and got these pictures. Not that I'd recommend that, but and also we can see here in this photograph, you see those benches along the deck. Well, those are heated again with recycled energy from the engine room, so you can sit out there enjoying this spectacular view over the sea ice in nice warmth and comfort, as well as this is the promenade deck, deck 5, so you can go out and have a lovely walk and then maybe sit down if you want to warm up. But yeah, the Charcot is, no doubt about it, an absolutely world-class vessel. You can see up here the top deck there, where you've got this round viewing platform on deck 9, a great observation platform. And the activities, this was when we set off, we were in Svalbard and went for a Zodiac cruise. Obviously great opportunities for photography, wildlife, in this instance, full Mars, Arctic terns, harp seals. So these were some of the images I took on the inaugural voyage, Kitty Wakes here, in September last year. Of course, we have an expedition team on board, and they're on duty looking out for wildlife, making sure we get not to miss anything. And we were very fortunate that both in September last year and the recent voyage we've just done, we had great sightings of blue whales. You know, blue whale, the largest animal that's ever lived. And as you can see here, just off the stern, and that was as we were leaving Svalbard. When we started seeing the first ice flows, of course, it was very exciting. And here you see the Charcot heading into the sea ice, taken from the helicopter on a navigation flight. And then you start getting into the ice proper. It's funny, you know, people will say, oh, isn't it boring because you're just looking at ice? Absolutely not. As Lindsay mentioned, you know, I've been to the North Pole 9 times and can't wait to return. It is so interesting to see the ice, the wildlife, to go through these chunks of ice and to see the different types of ice and the patterns and the beautiful light. You see here this formation of ice and ice flowers. But of course, the thing that everybody is very keen to see of the Arctic's top predator, and it doesn't matter how many polar bears you've seen, you can never see enough. We were extremely fortunate to have this lovely polar bear mum and cub. We had I think 8 polar bears on our trip last year, and we just had about 12 on the voyage I've just done with Ian. And you can see here how relaxed this mother and cub are. And this is one of the beauties of being on the Charcot, because the vessel, being a hybrid electric icebreaker, it's possible to move incredibly quietly so as not to disturb the wildlife. And you can see here this little cub relaxing, hanging over this piece of ice and looking up at us before they wandered off into the distance, nice and relaxed. Just a very special moment. When you're actually approaching the North Pole, we were very fortunate to be allowed on the bridge, and here you see Captain Garcia, the fabulous captain, who is so enthusiastic and knowledgeable about both the Arctic and Antarctic. And you can see he looks quite tense as we're approaching the pole. It's the most fantastic atmosphere. You can see here plotting the route, and see there where it says next arrival point North Pole, and as the officers on the bridge are plotting on the chart, you can see that there. And then there's a great atmosphere as people are watching the screens around the ship, waiting as we're gradually getting closer and closer to 90 degrees north. And I love this little clip because you can see here the latitude and longitude, so 89 degrees and 59 seconds, and then suddenly you can get that cheer as we get to 90 degrees north, and there are the captains and officers at that historic moment. So this is the very first French ship in history to get to the North Pole, so very exciting to be a part of that. And here are Captains Garcia and Marchessault celebrating in true style at the North Pole, and then out on the ice. It's great because the guests are able to enjoy the navigation through the ice, seeing the wildlife, and then when we get to the pole, the captain finds a place to garage in the ice, to park in the ice if you like, and then we're able to get off for all sorts of activities. It may be something like snowshoeing, maybe you'd like a game of football, walking around the ship. You can see here the light improved after the initial sort of overcast day, or for the very brave, if you fancy doing a polar plunge, then that's certainly a bracing thing to do at the North Pole. But for me, the thing I absolutely love is, of course, the photography, the magical sights and incredible light that you get, and the patterns on the snow and so on. Here, the polar bear guards on duty at around about 1 in the morning, when there were people out on the ice. Or here, this shot at midnight as we walked back towards the ship. And one of the other things I love about being on Le Commandant Charcot, and which I know many of the guests are fascinated by, is the science that goes on board. Here we see Dr. Hannah Sagan from the Nansen Environmental and Remote Sensing Centre, and Ponant support scientists on board ship in both the Arctic and Antarctic, and have a specially dedicated wet lab and dry lab. And so, for example, this great project, Float Your Boat, it's a project to encourage people to learn about the Arctic Ocean, its circulation, sea ice cover, and how it's changing. And so guests were encouraged to decorate these small floating wooden boats, which, as you can see, were stamped with the website and a number. And these will be set off and eventually wash up somewhere, and you can then locate your boat on a website, and it's gathering information about about currents, and, as I say, getting people to engage with the scientists. And here, Dr. Camille Leake and her colleagues, Jean-Luc and Nicholas, they were on board to collect data from the ocean, from the atmosphere, from the ice, and deploying this autonomous weather balloon to also collect data. That was part of this project, Global Ocean Observing System, and the Argo programs. And all of those projects are producing, vital data for science and operational oceanography in the Arctic. So really worthwhile. And, as I say, giving lectures on board so that the guests can engage with science, with the scientists. So then after that, it was back south, so leaving the pole. And when we were able to find a large polynya, an opening in the sea ice, where we had the opportunity to have a Zodiac cruise, where we had lovely conditions for those who wanted to kayak, which is another great opportunity offered by Le Commandant Charcot in the Arctic and Antarctic. And for those of us who are keen photographers, then of course the opportunity to photograph polar bears. I've been very fortunate to make 2 films about polar bears with the world's leading polar bear biologist, Professor Ian Sterling, as well as working on those BBC documentaries. And I have to tell you that some of the viewing opportunities we've had from the Charcot in the last 12 months have been absolutely spectacular. And one of which was absolutely amazing. Just a few weeks ago, we'd seen this mother and her cub, and they were walking around and leaping across the ice, and they were so relaxed. The mother sat down and suckled her cub just there in front of us, and we were just all standing on the deck watching this wonderful moment. And to give you an idea, having been photographing polar bears for 25 years, that is only the 2nd time I've seen that. So, imagine how excited those guests were. It was really, really special. And yeah, they really are the most beautiful animals. And whether it's your first bear or your 500th bear, it's still as exciting. So very, very special animals to watch. So hopefully that just gives you a little bit of an idea about what you might hope to see on the North Pole trip. And as I say, it's really wonderful to be on board there to help guests with their photography and help them get the best out of their trip. So yes, thank you very much for letting me talk about that.
Yeah, that's great. And Sue, I wanted to ask you, I saw quite a lot of photos. Let's see, you can go back. I saw quite a lot of photos of the ship in ice. And how does that work with Le Commandant Charcot breaking the ice?
Well, certainly the Charcot will have to go through ice to get to the pole, but the captain will take the line of least resistance, if you like. Interestingly, this year it only took about 3 days to get from Longyearbyen to the pole, because there was actually very little ice. And also what we will do, because the ship is tracking the route, especially last year, we were trying to follow back in our footsteps, if you like, where we'd come, so as to avoid as little disturbance as possible. And what was amazing was that we had gone through the ice to the pole, but then by the time we turned around to come back, it had simply refrozen because the conditions were such that it almost zipped back up, if you like. You know, in the right conditions, the sea can freeze very, very quickly. And that's one of the lovely things to watch, the different states of ice, from when it's what's called grease ice, just like a surface, a sort of slick of oil on the surface, and pancake ice, and different types of ice. It's all part of the, I guess, the pattern of and the excitement of a trip to the North Pole.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sue.
Not at all.
So we have this slide. This is Ponant's business development team. And as you can see, we have plenty of people that are here to support you. You'll see some different states that are listed under each person. So depending on where your agency is based, that is the best person for you to reach out to. Feel free to take a screenshot of this as well if you want to reach out to any of us. We are here for you. We also have, as Joni had mentioned, some resources and some special offers. So we do have our Ponant Specialist Program, and that is at ponantacademy.com. And for any bookings made 4 months after certification, we are offering a $100 Amazon e-card. We also have, I'm not sure if you're aware, but next month is our Travel Advisor Appreciation Month. So you have a few days from now to share the North Pole or any of our Ponant programs with your clients. And for deposits between November 1st and 30th on any Ponant departure, we'll be offering up to $500 per stateroom to you. Additionally, we have a North Pole special offer, and this is for your clients. It's $250 per person on board credit. So this is for new North Pole bookings made within the next 2 weeks. So that is what we have so far. We would love to answer your questions, and I know that Sue would love to talk more about any of the things that you have questions about photography or the North Pole in general. So Joni, I know that you have some. We are ready for you when you are.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Just give me a second to get that up in front of me. First of all, I'm getting a lot of messages that just say "wow," so which is kind of the way I feel watching this. You know, the wildlife, I can't even imagine. I see something like this and I just want to go so bad. I just just want to go so bad. It's beautiful, just beautiful. And Sue, what an artist you are. Amazing. Okay, so I do have a couple questions that are business related. I'll get out of my sitting here and drooling over this presentation. Okay, are there set times for meals? Which is a great question, Marjolaine.
And would you like to answer that, Lindsay, or would you like me to take that?
I'll let you take that one, Sue.
Oh, there are the meals. It's great. It's very flexible. So you have the Alain Ducasse restaurant on deck 5, where they have a broadband of around about an hour and a half or 2 hours for breakfast or lunch or dinner, so you don't have to go at a set time. Likewise, on the deck 9 restaurant, it's not a case of turning up and you have to be there at this time. It's very flexible. Also, there's the most fantastic room service as well. So yes, it's extremely flexible. And something I'd just like to mention while I'm thinking about it, please. With the North Pole trips in 2023, there are going to be 2 trips where, so I will be on the trip from about the 11th of August departure, and then myself and my colleague Ian Dawson will be on the following North Pole trip as well. So you'll be able to offer the photo ambassador input from us on those last 2 trips. So that'll be a nice opportunity.
That's perfect. In fact, I hope everyone bookmarked on their phone what those dates were, because those would be when I would want to go to take advantage of all of your knowledge. Somebody asked the question, do the photo ambassadors share the photos at the end of the voyage with the travelers?
We are working, well, the Studio Ponant, who are the photographers, the onboard photographers who are preparing both a DVD and individual images and a film of the voyage for the guests, whereas myself, Ian, and Cindy, we don't share our photos, but we will give talks about the photo. We'll give talks about the images we've taken. But Studio Ponant are there to actually do that particular role. So we work together so that that people have images provided from the trip, but then we have the input with the guests because Studio Ponant are too busy actually taking the images and making the film. Hope that clarifies.
Yeah, totally. And that kind of brings me to another question that was asked. Is there photo equipment for guests to borrow, or do they need to be prepared and bring their own?
Right now, guests need to bring their own. And what I would say is, we're going to be arranging some webinars where ahead of time, so that we'll be able to give advice on, if you've signed up for a particular trip, then Ian, myself, Cindy, we can come on and advise about if you've got camera questions, equipment questions, things to do with clothing, etc. But it doesn't matter. The great thing is, it does not matter whether you've got an iPhone, a point and shoot camera, a more expensive camera. In fact, it's really fun. We have a photo contest on board with different categories, so wildlife, scenery, landscape, etc. And one of the winners of the categories, it was taken on an iPhone. So you certainly don't have to have a big expensive camera, but certainly we'll be very happy to give advice and advise, about equipment in the run up to that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. And somebody asked, kind of along with what you just shared with us, Sue, about the clothing, they were asking about clothing. And that's great that you would prepare folks in advance by, having a webinar. But can you give us kind of a general idea of what the attire is? I mean, obviously jackets, for sure.
So Ponant supply a very nice jacket for all the guests, a nice warm jacket. And you're able to borrow boots. So I personally have, the thing is, a lot of people come along and they may ski, so they've been in the cold, but as you can see from a picture like this, all you need layers, so thermals, as you would wear on a skiing trip or a cold day, depending where you live. It's funny, I live in North Wales in the UK, and I've been colder in the winter here than I've been in summer in Antarctica. But thermal top and bottoms, maybe a pair of ski salopettes. I tend to bring a light waterproof jacket as well, because sometimes the jackets are too warm. Also, warm hat, gloves, neck warmer, decent sunglasses, and so on. And the great thing is, there's a fantastic laundry service on board, so you don't need to overpack. But yes, certainly, remember that we're going to the North Pole. It's going to be in the summer in the Arctic, so it really doesn't get excessively cold. And I'd be very happy to talk in more detail. Of course, Ponant supply an equipment list, but I'm very happy to give more details about what I pack. And it's just, a light pair of gloves, a thicker pair of gloves, and, a couple of changes of thermals, as I say, with a fleece and jacket on top.
Okay, perfect. Along with the clothing, I'm not sure when this question was asked exactly what they were meaning in terms of, the gear, which you've answered that perfectly. What about in the evening or the dinners? What is the general attire? I'm assuming relatively casual and warm, but I'm just wondering if you could maybe share that.
Absolutely. And inside the ship, it's pleasantly warm, so you're not going to be wrapped up and warm. So the Atlantic Cast restaurant is smarter, if you like, than the more casual one upstairs. But you could be wearing, smart casual clothes. And something like a gala dinner is quite interesting, because someone asked me this question the other day, a client who's going to be joining me on the North Pole trip. And for example, with the gentleman, you may have everything from someone in a tux through to perhaps a dinner jacket and smart shirt and tie. So it's tidy, but it's not. There's a great variety, and it's not super luxe unless you want it to be. So everything from, as I say, smart casual through to something more formal on special occasions.
Okay, that helps.
So for every departure on all of our ships, we have a captain's welcome and farewell reception. So those are the two events that are more dressy. As Sue said, those are our gala events. And if people want to dress up and wear a tux, they certainly can. It is absolutely not required. Generally for the US, because we tend to be more casual than some of our other international travelers, I recommend that gentlemen wear a coat. Tie is optional for these gala events. Outside of the gala events, it's more casual as well. So it's really just those two nights that are a little bit dressier than the others.
That's great. Well, that's really helpful. And I think that lends a real nice element to it. So there's a little bit of, a little bit of dressiness is always kind of fun, and it's festive. So that's great. Another question is, what is included in the fare and what is extra?
Sure. So I can tell you that charter flights from Paris to Longyearbyen for the North Pole are included. Gratuities are included. Wi-Fi, when available, is included. Once you get to about 80 degrees north, there is no Wi-Fi access. It just doesn't exist. And sometimes further south as well, it's just not possible where we're going. The things that are not included would be laundry service. It would be some of our premium alcohol. And when I say premium, I mean, we include Veuve Clicquot in the trip cost. So there are very good spirits and wines that are included. It would be very top shelf. That would be extra. All of our activities are included. So I guess extra would be spa treatments, gift shop. It's pretty hard to spend money on our ship, honestly.
Okay, that's good, because I was thinking when you were offering that onboard credit, it seemed like so much was included. I'm like, what are they going to use that on? But that laundry obviously is a big thing, and the other piece of it being, that would just make you feel all that much better about taking that spa treatment. So it gives you a reason, right? I like that.
Spa treatment reasonably priced as well.
Okay, great. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else that's really relative to that piece of information. This has been so interesting, so interesting. I think we've got pretty much through the questions, but I do have one last one, and I'm going to ask this not exactly like they asked it, but I'm just going to kind of change it a little bit. But they're asking about health, and so that brings me to, if something were to happen, if someone were to have something happen to them, it happens, life happens. How is something like that taken care of? And are there any health limitations for passengers? Do you have certain things that you would prefer that somebody that has that particular illness or whatever does not come on the trip? Or
Sure. So with Le Commandant Charcot, and this is not across all of our ships, but just the nature of Charcot, we do not accommodate wheelchairs at this point. So that would be a restriction right now.
Okay.
Additionally, we do have a helicopter on board, so we do have that option if there does need to be an emergency evacuation for any reason. This is for emergencies only. We want to have that helicopter available and ready. So that is an option. We also have a physician and also a they call it hospital on board, but it's not a hospital. It's I guess an infirmary on our ship. So we have so much medical equipment and someone that is available 24/7 should anything come up.
Perfect. Okay.
I also wanted to mention, Joni, this isn't really a question, but Sue had mentioned Svalbard a couple of times in the presentation, and our goal is to get guests to the ship on the North Pole trip. And so that is the #1 priority. Depending on the weather, we often get to the North Pole and back with a couple of days to spare. And so that is when our ship goes to Svalbard, and that's when we have a lot of opportunities to do kayaking, spot polar bears. So when that happens, it's kind of like 2 different trips in one. It's something that we don't promote, and it's not something that you would see on our brochure and our website, but the majority of our North Pole departures also spend days in Svalbard. So it's a really special experience to see even more than what we promote.
Oh, that's great. That's like a bonus. That's a bonus, right?
It is. And if I can just add something else as well, please. I meant to add that when the question was, what's included, all of the services of the photo ambassadors are included. So, one-to-one sessions, the lectures, the different workshops. So that is all included for everybody throughout the voyage. So you can make as much or as little use of us as you would like to. And we love having dinners with guests and talking about photography, and that's one of the things that we really love doing. So that's all part of the fun.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Great.
That's wonderful. Okay, so I think we've pretty much answered everybody's questions. One thing I do have to say, which doesn't happen all the time, and that is that every single person that's signed into this webinar stayed on it the entire time. So ladies, that is a test to an amazing presentation, Sue and Lindsay. I can honestly tell you that says a lot. So you guys did a beautiful job. Wonderful presentation. Somebody wrote that they loved seeing all of these pictures, and they said it was freaking amazing. And it's even more than that. I couldn't agree more. So I just wanted to thank you ladies. If you have anything last minute you'd like to say, and then we'll close out in just a sec.
Just to say, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about the place. And despite the fact I've been going to the Arctic and Antarctic so many times in the last 25 years, it never gets old. It is absolutely spectacular, whether it's the North Pole, elsewhere in the Arctic, or the Antarctic. And if you have any more questions, feel free to get in touch with me through my website, sueflood.com, and you can always find me on there. And I love chatting about photography, and feel free to reach out, or via LinkedIn or something like that. Thank you.
And Lindsay, thank you so much for hosting this as well. Sue, people are just, logging in going, amazing, thank you. And everyone, I think, agrees that we're all ready to go now, and it's on our bucket list if we've not been there before. So thank you both. And thank you everyone in the audience for your great questions and paying so much good attention to this presentation. It was truly a wonderful way to spend the day watching this. So thank you, ladies, and thank you, everybody. And we will see you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.